welcome to Dark Loops. Why is this so good? I'm your host, Dr. Scott Jordan, aka Zombie Scotty, cognitive psychologist, philosopher from Illinois State University. And joining me on today's panel are all my soccer comedy friends. So I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves, and we will start with Tom.
Hello, my name is Tom Buller. I'm a professor of philosophy at Illinois State University and a big fan of Manchester United.
Excuse me, Secretary. Okay, moving on to the real soccer fans. We'll go to Sistah Aye.
I didn't know this was also soccer related, but it makes sense. So anyway, I am Sistah Aye, co-host of Sistah Speak Productions podcasts, coming to you from Boston, Mass, and a huge fan of Liverpool. Sorry, Tom.
Excellent. Marcello.
Hi, I'm Marcello. I'm from Denmark, originally from Germany, so I'm rooting for Bayern Munich. So, yes. And I have a background in philosophy and cognitive science.
Fantastic. Kerri?
I am Kerri Morris. I am a professor at Governor State University. I teach mostly writing courses. And I am a Manchester United fan because if I'm not a Man United fan, I have no place to sleep at night. Right. I'm married to Tom.
Do you watch the matches for him?
No. I can't be near him during a match. He absolutely vibrates as he watches them. A little known fact about Tom, he always checks the score before he watches a game because he can't handle the anticipation and the stress.
I understand that.
Yes, I understand as well. And Tatsu.
Yeah, I'm Tatsu Shegita. I'm a PhD student in psychology at Northeastern University in Boston. I am also a very big Liverpool fan of the Reds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So here's what we're going to do here. Instead of going through a blow by blow of the show and blah, 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 what I asked each of the panelists to do was pick their favorite episode, their favorite scene, and their favorite line. So what I'm going to do is just throw open the floor to anyone who has a favorite episode, favorite scene, favorite line, and we'll take it from there.
If you want, I can start.
Yes.
For me, I mean, it's such a great show. It's hard to pick just one. But for me, episode 3 was my favorite episode. That was entitled Trent Crim, the Independent. Yeah. And it was just, start to end funny. I loved the Indian restaurant scene with him and Trent trying to, not have their heads explode with the heat of the dishes. Him trying to be so polite with the waiter, and it was just great. I think Trent is a great character too. So, it was a lot of fun.
And he remembers Trent's name. He remembers the restaurant owner's name, who was his cabbie, if I remember correctly. Any other comments on that episode? Anything anyone liked?
Yeah, I totally agree. That is also my favorite episode, and also my favorite scene when they're sitting in the restaurant. It is just really great. I think this whole episode just mirrors the whole series and the spirit of the show really well. I think you can see what the Ted Lasso coaching method is all about.
Right.
And yeah, it's really good.
So since we're on an episode where Ted is being so gracious and we're learning more and more about what a nice, kind, forward-looking person he is, how did you all react to his optimism? I guess I'll just call it that. Just what sort of reactions did you have to the over-the-top positivity of one Ted Lasso? Was it comical? Were your reactions, oh, there's no one really like that in the world, and this is all written for a comedy? I'm really trying to get at Tom here because
I'm gonna withhold my comments because I want to hear what some of the other more positive thinking people think.
Okay. Anyone else on that episode?
I mean, is it kind of a reflection, his positivity of being a Midwesterner coming from the central part of the States? They kind of think of him as not being so intelligent, but we really find out that he is. And I also think it's interesting the twist that is sort of the downfall of his marriage, that he's too
Yes.
positive, that his wife has kind of fallen out of love with him because of that.
No, that's fantastic because it's his strength and his weakness, right? And he suffers his worst pain because of his best quality. Such as life. But yeah, anyone else on his optimism? I mean, we can talk about this more as we talk about additional episodes and such, but
Yeah, I really love it. I think it is so nice also in this episode 3 to see that this character just it's all about the others. It's not about him when they are going to the school. It's about Roy. When they're going to the restaurant, it's about the restaurant family. And I think there's one dialogue in this restaurant scene which I really like a lot, where Trent says that he really should go, and Ted says that, hey, I'll say this, I really enjoyed getting to spend this time with you, Trent. And Trent asks, you actually mean that, don't you? And I think that summarizes just how Ted is, just doing his thing and everybody else reacts. It's hard to believe for everybody around him that he's just so positive.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, they all start liking it and react in a good way.
And I love that on top of all that syrupy positivity, there's a deep-seated awareness that people aren't going to always like it. And so he's, as we see in later episodes, he's very experienced with the cynical world and knows how to carry himself and he knows a lot of people are going to resist this way of approaching people. And nonetheless, he continues to, dare I say, witness that way of being. And, you know, regardless of the believability of the outcome, just the, dare I say, positivity, which we're all sort of in need of a bit. Mm-hmm. And the modeling of having the daring to move forward, daring to take the risk to be the kind one first, which is, you know, in a cynical culture, it's no, don't be the one who gets played. So what you do then is you don't be the one who makes it about others first, because that makes you vulnerable, right? Mm-hmm. That makes it possible for people, as we saw all throughout the series, people trying to make fun of him. Anyone else favorite episode?
Well, I was just gonna add on to that, because he's so optimistic, you're always waiting for him to crack, right? And some of the best scenes are when he cracks. I love the practice scene. Talking about practice, and the fact that you're waiting for him to crack, and when he cracks, it's just a complete joke, right? A play on the whole Allen Iverson practice conference. It's just so
right.
fun. Talking about
exactly.
Practice.
No. And there's so many just little cultural references in here, here and there, that, you know, they had a blast in the writing room, just going back and forth about what to say, how to say it. And then for me, the comedic execution was just on top. Comedy is not easy to do, and this kind of potentially syrupy comedy, and to make it work, is very difficult to do. And not just the character Ted Lasso cracking, but the actor. Is he going to keep really acting this role? When is he going to crack, right? I'd say it was a joy just to experience and watch and wait, as you said, for the meltdown. Anyone else favorite episode?
You want us to give our favorite episode?
Yeah, what's your favorite episode? Why was it your favorite episode?
My favorite episode was Make Rebecca Great Again. I don't know which number it is. I'd have to go back to the web.
That is number 7.
Number 7.
Yes.
The reason I chose it is because I think it's this moment in the series when the secondary characters all get some flesh put on the bones and a chance to really shine. So the team has a win. We have Nate's speech. So he gets to roast all the players.
Yep.
And just this very surprising turn, you know, from Nate, and then going nose to nose with Roy, you know, on his comments. You get to see Keelie and Rebecca and Sass. And I think one of the very few things, I just don't think we very often see women supporting women in movies and sitcoms and anything. Women are often rivals. And to see that sort of unabashed affection. And I mean, to me, Keelie is really just the female Ted Lasso, the
Right.
British version of Ted Lasso, and is really the agent that is bringing Rebecca, you know, into a state of harmony, you know, with everything. And then you have the karaoke moment, you know, I think the let it go, I think all of that really comes together. And, but to me, the really most poignant part of it is Ted having a panic attack. So all the people around him are, the plates are spinning perfectly. And then he completely falls apart. And I think seeing that edge to Ted, that's sort of the depth of feeling that he has for his relationship. And Rebecca's ability, even at this point, even though she's still lying to him, her ability to reach out to him and to steady him, to let him know that he's going to make it through this moment. I just really think it's kind of the emotional center of the show, that episode. I think it's what allows us to continue with our belief and hope in a lot of these characters. So that's my favorite episode.
I agree completely. It's totally my favorite episode. I think it's the most complete in terms of emotional range. I think the sassy Smurf flirtation scene is just hot and fun. Her showing up at his place at the end is just hot and fun. All of it is incredibly adult. And the fact that he does panic, and let's face it, the guy nails it as an actor. You completely believe that he's having that moment. And I have to admit, I'm thinking, sitting here watching her sing and watching him panic. And I thought, wait a minute, he doesn't have a daughter, he has a son. Because I was thinking maybe he had imagined singing that song with his girl or something, and maybe he did with his family, but just a complete episode from top to bottom. And for me, in all the right ways. And Nathan's reading his comments to the other players was just priceless. For me, and Tom, you can correct me on this, but I thought there was a real nice British edge to that humor, where here's this fairly unassuming guy who just all of a sudden riffs streetwise on all of these bigger guys. And I love sentimentality when it's worked for. Right. And I think the sentimentality in this episode was completely worked for. And what I mean is when Nathan tells Roy, dude, you used to be so mad. You were angry at the grass. He says something else about the ball and his wife I won't go into. But so you're just laughing and laughing. And he says, but, if you keep all that anger inside of you, I'm not sure what's going to happen. So in a moment, something goes from being hilarious to incredibly sincere. And that's just good work on the part of the writing and the actors is, the sincerity, I think it was worked for. And I think that happens more than once in this series. But for me in this episode, it just stopped. When the guy's sitting around watching Iron Giant, I mean,
oh God, Iron Giant, that was hysterical.
I just loved everything about it. Anyone else on this episode?
I'll just say that was also my favorite episode, and you just kind of touch on all those things. That panic attack scene, really, I thought was one of the most authentic portrayals of a panic attack that I've seen on TV. It's not over the top. You see him, he's feeling it in his hands, and that's what happens is you lose control of your body in your own way, and you see it, and you're going through loops and loops and loops, and then it was just a really captivating scene, I thought, and the way you really start to see kind of Rebecca for who she is, and that was also really nice. So a great character building and kind of linking episode, and I loved it.
I love the scene where Rebecca and her friend Flo go out for a cigarette, and Rebecca starts to apologize for having left them behind for 6 years. And her friend doesn't say it's okay. Her friend calls her out and says, he built you an ivory tower and you walked up to the top of it every step. You got to account. I thought, damn, When's the last time we saw that? You know, I mean, in the midst of what some might experience as a disposable comedy, I think we're getting some pretty deep human stuff. Anyone else on that episode? And not hearing you all talk about it, everybody helps everybody in that one, right? Everybody has a weak moment, and everybody helps them in that weak moment. And I think that's when, as you said, Kerri, that's when we start to feel we can invest in the rest, and okay, these are all humans, are all taking care of each other, right? Top to bottom.
I think even Nate's brand of encouragement is very interesting, and the fact that you have a lead footballer what he brings to the pitch is anger, you know, in contrast to Lasso's belief and hope. You know, the anger is what's being, you know, tilled and sown and so on. And I think that that's really, I mean, there's quite a few dippy footballers in this group, you know, and that are really buying into the Ted Lasso sentimentality and so on, but not Roy. I mean, he's still Roy. I mean, he's still allowed to be that mean, angry, you know, fellow. And I think Nate's wisdom is so, you know, I mean, at that moment, he earns his coaching stripes, you know, I mean, that pays off at that point. It's not the strategy that wins him that position. It's that ability to nail those players so accurately.
And as a Liverpool fan, it's fantastic that they beat Everton.
Right? And not us.
All right. Anybody else favorite episode? Have we covered everybody's?
Mine was the first one.
Bring it on.
That's because I didn't have to watch the other ones.
Oh, here we go.
Oh,
You guys, this is Roy's older brother, by the way.
So you must have been watching a different show. I mean, I just found it. I thought I was watching something on the Hallmark Channel.
you must have never seen anything on the Hallmark Channel.
Yeah, I mean, I found it predictable. The story, you know, the kind of ugly duckling who makes good story. He goes over and with this folksy type of humor and understanding wins over the cynics and the naysayers. And as I've said before to Scott, I found it kind of overly sentimental and predictable. I thought the Nate character was gratuitous, the kind of funny Asian guy portrayal. And then the other characters were thin, the Hispanic or the Latinx football player, you know, the list of foreign players, the jokes. I mean, I think the writing was superb, and there was some genuinely sweet moments. I think Juno Temple as Keelie is first rate. The Roy character, I mean, presumably given the initials and his first name, they're playing on Roy Keane, the grisly Man United midfielder. So there were lots of nice touches. My favorite, I think, scene is when Kylie's imitating Roy, when she puts on that deep voice. I think it's episode 2 or 3 when he storms out and
she's walking back in the building or something, and then she turns around to him. Yeah, right.
And then my other favorite part is when Higgins. I think Higgins is just great, very well done. Yeah. When he goes native and is playing the stand-up bass.
That was one of my favorite.
That's scenes. A cute scene, and I love his crazy beard. But no, I just thought it was a bit sappy.
I agree that it was sappy, and I have to admit I I drink every bit of it.
Yep.
I've watched it twice.
Yeah, I wanted to say one thing about this show, about the sappiness quality of it. For one thing, I think the term sentimental has really taken on a really negative power. And I do think it's a term that the Brits use more negatively than Americans do, typically. So I would embrace the sentimentality of this show in the sense that there's a strong sense of emotion, you know, which is really what the word means, and maybe even overly emotional. But I don't think you can remove this show from the context of the culture that we're in right now. Whether it's the situation with Brexit, whether it's Trump, whether it's the pandemic, I think all of those things, all the cynicism, all of the negativity, all of the despair. And I think one of the things that the show does that isn't sentimental, but is actually a quality of survival, is the notion of vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that for me, Lasso's characteristic that is most charming is not his optimism, but it's his vulnerability. It's his ability to tell people his worst, you know, situations. I had a one-night stand. My wife's divorcing me, and you know, to create the diamond dogs. I mean, the diamond dogs themselves are ridiculous, but the fact that he's so honest about that,
Right.
I think in the context of a pandemic and the Trump administration, it's huge. And I'm not sure what it would have been like if it had been filmed during the Obama administration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because he makes himself publicly vulnerable, and it's like he's at a mosh pit and they catch him, right? I mean, he jumps into the audience and he gets caught, where earlier times he may not have gotten caught. I mean, the culture may just not have been up for it as much. I thought about that when I watched it. I couldn't tell you. For me, it was just like I was just getting the perfect breakfast sandwich that I had been waiting for 5 years. Everything that I did. I can't say everything that I dig. I love comedy, and I've just not seen this type of comedy in such a long time. I mean, I'm rewatching Frasier right now, and it's still full of sarcasm. I mean, it's just still full of everybody waiting to see who's going to make the first positive approach, who's going to be the one to make themselves vulnerable, right? And the answer is no one. And so for this, I wasn't used to seeing this much positive approach in media, and I was blown away pretty quickly and watched it all pretty quickly. Yeah. So anyone else got a favorite episode? Maybe we've done all that. Okay, let's go on to favorite scene then. Let me ask this: for how many of you, raise your hand if the dart scene is your favorite scene?
I had several, but that is one of them.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It's my favorite scene, and it's my favorite line. Simple dialogue, but so clear and to the point. So I'll just start that scene. And then, so thing is, they show up to, Rebecca and Ted show up at a pub to make a deal with the Milk Sisters, the 2.9. 2% sisters. And Rupert's already there with his new girlfriend, and he tells Rebecca that the Milk Sisters aren't coming because he already bought their shares, making him, he's not allowed, or actually he didn't buy the shares, his girlfriend did, blah, 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 and he's going to show up at every game in the owner's box and give her hell. And then he's going to talk crap about her to the press, and he just comes out and says all of this stuff right in front of her. And then his girlfriend throws a dart, and he says everybody should be loud if she hits the board, and she does, and everybody's really loud. And Ted picks up a dart and throws it with his right hand, and doesn't do well. And Rupert says, "Oh, do you play darts?" And he says, "Yeah." And so then how about a wager 10,000 pounds? It's like, who talks like that? I don't go. And he says, okay, yeah, I'm in. But if I win, you don't go to the games at all. And if you win, you get to pick the starting lineup for the last blah, 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 blah. So, so basically Rupert feels he's hustled Ted, right? Because suddenly he pulls his darts out. And then Ted said, oh, I forgot, I'm left-handed. And then the scene just goes uphill or downhill, whatever you want to. It just becomes this great crescendo, reflected in the audience's screams when he finally wins the match at the end. I'll save the lines, but for me, that scene, and it shows you that Ted has a mean streak. He's got a mean streak, and he's gonna put you down with love, right? And he's not gonna let you beat up on people in front of him. So he's gonna find a way where he is to keep that smile on his face. And there's that line where Rupert says something really, really mean to Rebecca, and Ted says, manners now while I'm holding the dart. That's a threat, right there. I just love that style of, dare I say, being mean. It's kind of like, aren't you precious? All right, or aren't you special? Right. I absolutely love that scene. Anyway,
I have a fairly simple one. I love the sequence, the semantic satiation sequence.
I love
Plan.
it's hilarious. That's what
hilarious.
happens, man. No, absolutely.
As one of those things that I hadn't really thought about, but totally happens all the time. I'm like, I've never put a word to that, semantic satiation.
And it loses its meaning and blah, blah, blah. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it is hilarious.
And what's cool about it, it's also funny in itself, and then it's a nice little backstory mechanism for the coaches, right? We learn that this is something they've done before. And so you start to fill in the backstory about them and where they've been. And you think, well, these are some weird dudes if that's the kind of conversations they have with each other, or if they argue about who the best lead singer in Van Halen was.
Well, you just love that, he kind of, part of his cognition is in Beard. He always looks for it from Beard, and Beard's always got an answer. It's just always comes in with the zingers. I loved it.
That's fantastic. Anyone else favorite scene?
My favorite scene is from All Apologies, when Rebecca fesses up and Ted says, I forgive you. Divorce is hard. It makes folks do crazy things. I think it sums up the bottom line of who this human being is. This is the person who is capable of forgiveness. He recognizes vulnerability in other people. It's clear, I think, that he doesn't know he's been duped. And he takes that, and you can see it on his face that he's a little bit staggered, particularly by the transfer of Jamie. And I just, to me, it's just such a message, that I need, that sense that, yeah, I'm big enough to forgive you for this. It's all done. It's all over. We're good. And then the kind of punctuation of that scene with him wanting to shake hands. He's learned his lesson, that he shakes hands with her, and then she insists on a hug. I really love it. I'm sure it's one of Tom's.
Tom, is that your favorite scene?
No, it's not my favorite scene. No, and then I'm not a fan of the dart scene.
Why?
It was predictable.
Yes, but it was so satisfying. It was, in other words, I've watched that scene at least 3 times. I know where it's going to go every single time. The thing about good art is that it doesn't matter that you've seen it before. As a matter of fact, that makes it better sometimes. I know exactly where it's going to end, and it still just makes, I have to admit, maybe tear up a little bit every time. It's just awesome.
It's not all that predictable, though, in the sense that that is not Ted Lasso's character. That is an out of character moment for him. And it's a time when pride steps forward. He says, look, people have been underestimating me my entire life.
Yeah.
And at your peril, do you underestimate me? Learn to be curious instead of judgmental. And it's, you know, it's just I just think it's a very, I don't think we'll see much teeth coming from Ted Lasso, but man, when he pulls them out, they're sharp.
Yes, and they're wickedly, I mean, killing someone with a smile on their face. I mean, that's the thing is there's nothing that Ted does in that scene that he will ever regret. I know that there have been times when I've been in public and I've maybe taken one of those lasso, protect someone moments and gone nasty in my tone. And I have gone back and said, well, I'm glad I stood up for that person, but I really wish I had just been able to keep my cool edge. You know, instead of letting everybody see how mad I was. So I, it's not something we see often in life, let alone media. So no, I'm with you on that. Go ahead, Tom. We're not ganging up on you.
No. I like that, the scene that I like, and the lines that I wrote down. Because as I said, the writing I think was very good. Is when again from the first episode, and Ted goes into the changing room for the first time, and he says, "Last time I saw eyes like that, they were going head to head with Roy Scheider." And Beard says, "Jaws," and the reply is, "No, all that jazz."
Anyone else? Favorite scene?
You've mentioned some of mine, like the darts and Higgins playing the upright bass.
Mm.
I also enjoyed when they're preparing to play Man City in the final. All of the, you know, they want to come up with some cunning set pieces, and everybody coming up with these names for the set pieces. Yeah. And then on the day when they do the Ted Lasso move on the pitch, crazy. It was great.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah. People didn't know what the hell was going on. It was great.
No,
why was that amusing?
Just all those names they came up with, and then playing American football on a English football pitch, you know, and nobody knew, you know, nobody watches American football over there really, so they didn't know what was happening. It was great.
I thought it was also sort of a, see, for me, this show was definitely written by someone who was an American comedian, probably grew up watching Monty Python, a bit of a, what do you call a Anglophile, huge Beatles fan. I mean, that just all these pop culture British references kept coming through the show. And it's this, just for me, it's this love-filled hodgepodge of American English stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end, when they line up for the play, it's almost too much, right? It's almost too over the top. But then you're like, you know what, man, they earned it. It's the last piece of candy. It's the last episode. And you knew they were going to lose. And that's, you know, that I was pretty sure they were going to get relegated, which is consistent with the Lasso ideal and stuff like that. But
so what if it was reversed? So if the show was the snotty or come-uppity Brit who comes over and takes over the American football team or the baseball team, would you, I mean, is it really, as Scott says, the kind of reference to British culture that really gets you with this show? And apart from that, it's just a rather tried and trusted formula.
I think it would be hilarious if that's what the second season was, just to be funny. Like completely get rid of all of the characters, and that's the second season. Because I don't really see, like, you know, there's gonna be this whole sequence of they're gonna go through the championship and get promoted and this and that. But you'd kind of be disappointed if that's what the second season is with this show. You know?
Yeah, maybe one of those one and done series too, right? Where there was just I think it's more of a point they wanted to make, and they made it in the course of 5 hours, which, you know, these days we can binge standing on our heads, right? And and it's over, and I don't feel
Oh,
compelled.
I disagree. They have 3 seasons. They've
Yeah,
got
they
the
do.
relegation season. They've got the whatever it's called to be back in,
Promotion.
and then they're going to win the championship in the 3rd one.
Just as he predicts.
Yep.
There you go. We'll see how we'll see, right? We'll see how they keep up with the. We'll see how they keep up with the possibility that they have them actually pull a Leicester, right? And really, 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 really win it. As long if they were to do that, I would really hope they'd start buying some of the better players in the world. Like, you know, but the only reason, I mean, Leicester's year had just as much to do with everybody playing like crap, right, as it did Leicester realizing all they had to do was kick the ball over everybody's head every game. And Jamie Vardy was just the best at playing the shoulder, and it took for everybody forever. So we'll see. I love the show. If they make another, I'll watch it. But I wouldn't like go, oh crap, they really missed it if they stopped. Okay, favorite lines. Anyone?
Well, my favorite line definitely comes from the dart scene. And I'm left-handed, and I always notice when people are left-handed, particularly in sports. And when he says, "Oh, wait a second, I forgot I'm left-handed," it just is so wicked. You know, it's just so wicked. And then and I just want to add one other thing about Rupert: the fact that he was Buffy's watcher and was this ultimate good character in Buffy. I mean, that's for most Americans who that actor is. And I hated his guts in this show. So, you know, kudos to him. I just thought he was an evil son of a gun.
He truly was. My favorite lines were from that bit, right? And of course, I wrote out most of it. I won't read it all, but I'll say a little bit about the gist. The gist being that he had been underestimated his entire life, and then those guys, they think they knew everything, they had it all figured out, so they judged everything, and they judged everyone. And then he said it was later on in life when I realized they just weren't curious. And that distinction between being curious and not, I can't tell you how many degrees of freedom that can buy you in your life, right? Particularly if you're a curious person. If you're a curious person, then you have a bad habit of making yourself vulnerable by asking people questions. Right? And you're the one who's admitting you don't know, right? And so you're taking the risk upon yourself to say, basically, what's it like to be you?
I can go with mine. I've got to read it. It's a little bit long. I know this was done in probably the last 2 episodes. I think it has to do with Roy and Keelie and the whole Jamie mix, you know, coming into it and them deciding, you know, what they want. And Ted says, folks often think the love triangle is life's most complicated shape, but I'd argue it comes in second place to the walked in on my mother-in-law changing into her swimsuit dodecahedron. I mean, who comes up with this stuff? That is brilliant.
What on my face makes you think I'm interested in a shape-based conversation? Sorry for the shit English accent.
Oh. I mean, it's great.
No, that's the care they took in crafting the humor is just fantastic. Yes.
Yeah, I have another zinger line along those lines. So they're at the Man City game. Higgins is introducing all 5 of his children, and you know, Rebecca's like, Jesus Christ, and then you know, father walks in, and the mother's just like, oh no, it's okay, he's a cool priest. When your parents have you out of wedlock, it allows you the space to explore life's gray areas. I thought that was just the funniest thing.
It is. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Anybody else line? Okay, well, we've done favorite episode, we've done favorite scene, we've done favorite line. Any other things about Ted Lasso you guys would like to comment on, mention, discuss?
Can we do a quick go around of your favorite character besides Lasso?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Tom, you raised your hand. You shook your head vigorously. You go first.
Well, I suppose
I've got, I think Higgins. Higgins was a very good foil, particularly early on in those key moments in episode 1.
Tom, did you watch any other episodes?
Yes, actually I did.
You did. Okay, just checking.
Yeah. Just loved Higgins' attempts to ingratiate himself with Rebecca and her put downs of him, and then his happiness to be included in the Diamond Dogs and being one of the lads, and then the Scott mentioned this earlier. I mean, makes this reference to Python, but I would have liked to have seen more of that. I just thought the transition from awkward, embarrassing himself Higgins to cool jazz dude Higgins was just lovely, and he played it so well. And yeah, I think that's just about my favorite part of the whole. It should, if season 2 is all about Higgins, I'll be happy.
Your comment on the Diamond Dogs reminds me of the scene where they're forming the Diamond Dogs, and then they're all saying something, and someone says something about Rebecca's honesty or something like that, and Higgins kind of goes, "What?" And then Nathan's ralphing in the garbage can.
I love that, like half of his like interactions is either a grunt or some sort of gesture.
Mhm.
Even the cello scene.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Okay, who's next? Favorite character other than Ted?
I really liked Roy, and really liked the scene where he's reading this book that he got from Ted to his niece, and then he's reading out, and it has to be you, it can't be anybody else, and he just shouts, "Fuck." It's really, really nice, and I think this character really is a good counterpart to Ted Lasso's role. So yeah, I think they managed to put in a good balance with these two characters.
And then when in the karaoke scene when she's singing "Let It Go" and you see him mouthing the words. Oh, that was hilarious. Okay, who else? I'll just say Nathan.
Nate the Great.
I absolutely loved his character's progression. Him eventually being promoted to a coach, realistic, unrealistic, I don't really care. It just reveals more and more about Ted, how he looks for the best in people and finds ways to amplify that in a group. And his delivery, getting trapped under the bus, just these things that, when I'm looking for good comedy, I don't want to feel like I'm working. I just want to see good acting that makes me laugh. And he just made me laugh all the time. So Nathan would be my favorite character other than Ted.
I love when he's like, "Oh, I don't take baths. I'm deeply afraid of aging."
He says, "Say what's on your mind, Nate." "Well, no. Well, why not?" "Well, you may not like it, and then you'll fire me, and then I have to tell my parents, and then they'll send me home, and everyone will hate me." Or long series of conditionals that play out.
And then Ted's face in response to that. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, excellent.
Well, my favorite character is the beard, hands down. And I think for me, the kind of shining moment for him is when he disagrees in the pub with Ted Lasso. And when Lasso's saying, "It's not about the winning." And he says, "You're wrong, you're wrong. It is winning. Winning's the only thing that matters." Or I don't have the line right, but I love that fire and that sense of, getting back to reality, that this is what it comes down to in life, and I just love the quiet grounding, that he gives. He really makes me laugh. And then the say whatever that word was that he came up with was so good.
Yeah, I do like that yin and yang to the two of them, right? I mean, he's obviously sticking around with Ted because he knows Ted brings something to the world of coaching. And Ted's obviously hanging around with him because he knows he's bringing something in that sort of yin yang that only has that one rupture, right? And during the whole time. That's pretty cool. All right, anyone else?
Yeah, my favorite was definitely Keelie. I liked Keelie because I think she's the glue person that keeps the plot of the show going. She makes things happen, right? And she does it in a way that's partially like it's cutting, but also funny, but also very sincere. And somebody said that she's the female version of Ted, but she's a female version of Ted that can also play the other side pretty well, right? And the scene where she's egging on Roy. It's like, oh, you can't get me, Matt. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. What was that? Oh, right. Yeah.
Hilarious. Yes.
Yeah.
Very self-aware. Excellent. Anyone else? Any other characters?
I'll just mention kind of a latecomer because y'all have mentioned I pretty much love everybody except for Rupert and Jamie. I mean, I know you don't like the sappiness of it, Tom, but I could even use more sappiness by not having any of that negative energy in the show at all. So the latecomer is Danny Rojas, who comes in with this amazing amount of energy, doing his running everywhere, jumping, and just his positivity. And I love that. So,
well, if life is football, then your defense is death. Fair but true.
That scene where I can't even remember how, it's very late, where they're saying, yeah, there was this time when I was throwing up and I had diarrhea at the same time. And Rojas says, oh, isn't the human body amazing?
To do both at the same time.
You can do both at the same time.
I just want to give joy for free,
No, it's fantastic.
Oh, he's just so clueless.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like that character that literally will just say one thing the whole show, like football is life, but mean like 20 different things.
I agree.
Football is life.
That's actually pretty funny. Put him in a shirt with a Groot saying football is life. All right, then. Any other final comments? All right, then. Well, that about wraps it up for tonight's conversation. Panelists, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you on social media? We'll start with Tatsu.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, I think it's TT Shegita, at TT Shegita.
Okay. Kerri.
I'm on Twitter at Kerri K. Morris, KERRI Morris, and I have a blog called Cancer is Not a Gift with Chicago Now, which I encourage you to take a gander at.
Fantastic. Sistah Aye.
You can find me at sistahspeakproductions.com, SISTAHSPEAK.
Fantastic. Marcello?
Yeah, you can not find me on Instagram, I think, but you can find me on Facebook at Marcello Ghin. Yeah.
Very cool. And Tom?
You can find me, you can send me an email at akatombuller@gmail.com.
Fantastic. You can find me on Twitter at dark_loops. You can find all Dark Loops podcasts on the Dark Loops Productions page. If you'd like to leave feedback about this episode or any Dark Loops episode, just do so on that YouTube page and we'll get back to you. You can also send feedback to darkloopsproductions@gmail.com. So there it is, from all of us to all of you. Big hugs, and remember, football is life.
Hey.
Thanks, everyone.